that night was, I can tell you this, listen, I'm 32 years old. It wasn't long ago. I sat in your seats. I was in high school. When I was in high school, cell phones really kind of just hit the market. They're not like cell phones today. When I had a cell phone in high school, the only thing I really could do was make a call or receive a call. Today, from my cell phone, I could surf the internet. I could listen to my favorite music and songs. I could check 3 different email addresses that I have that come right to my phone. Text messages, FaceTime, Facebook, Instagram, I mean, you name it, Twitter. I have it here. I've done it all. I do it all. I enjoy it. This is probably one of my favorite pastimes, and it also helps me work and do my job. As a freeholder, I'm always getting important emails. I'm always getting important text messages about places I need to go that are on my schedule, about meetings that I have, and about folks from my constituency, from the towns, that may call my office. When I'm not there, I have a clerk. And sometimes my clerk just can't spend all day calling me. He's telling me, okay, Jane called you, John called you, this one called you, that person called you. So instead, what she does is she'll put it and package it up in an email, or she'll package it up and send it in a text message. So that night I was distracted. I picked up my phone. I went to look at a text message that was coming in. It was a Wednesday night. It was a night that I had a freeholder meeting. I was coming home a little later than usual because with my busy schedule, I don't have much time to eat dinner before the meeting. So I normally go out to dinner, or I might meet some friends afterwards. And I was coming home. It was dark out at night. And I went to reach for my phone. And I was driving the speed limit. And I had a Jeep. I had a Jeep, which is a pretty, I want to say, big, safe vehicle. I mean, there's a lot of vehicles out there. Jeeps are known for their safety and for being bigger. I was going the speed limit, and I took my eyes off the road for maybe 3 or 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds at most. And I was reading the text message, and the next thing I remember was a loud bang. An airbag, like a split second, came out at 200 miles an hour and knocked me out unconscious. And that was the last thing I remembered until I woke up and I was in a pool of blood. I couldn't find my cell phone anywhere because it was in my hand and it flew out of my hand. The car's battery was knocked out, so it was dark. I couldn't turn the lights on in the car and try to find my cell phone. And I was seriously injured. And I said to myself at that time, I need to get help, and I did. And luckily I did, because if I would have lingered around or waited and I didn't go seek help, I may have passed out or died from the loss of blood. But the reason I tell you this story is because I was obeying the law up until I had my seatbelt on, everything was fine, going the speed limit. I was obeying the law up until the point that I reached for my cell phone. Certain towns have different laws. The town I was in was Roseland. And the law is improper use of a cell phone while operating a motor vehicle. That doesn't mean you have to be talking on it. That doesn't mean you have to be texting on it. It could just mean that you're using it. I mean, you could just be grabbing it, playing around with it, fiddling with it. I mean, I know in my Jeep, I had a little cord that went into the radio. I mean, I could plug my iPhone right into the radio and I could flip through. I mean, I wouldn't even have to have been looking at a text message or an email. I could have just been looking at a song I wanted to play next. What happened was the road seemed straight. After I got released from the hospital and I went through rehabilitation, I decided to take a trip back to where my accident happened. And I stood about 40 yards from where the accident happened. And a road that I drive down almost every day looks straight when you're driving down it. But when I actually stood on the sidewalk, I realized there was a very slight bend in the road. And what the police had determined from the police report is just as I went to look at my cell phone, my vehicle kept going straight, and the slight bend in the road happened, and right there happens to be a tree right along the curb side. And my car went straight instead of veering to the right ever so softly. And it was a very scary moment, and my Jeep is no longer. A mechanic took a look at it and said, fortunately it saved your life, but unfortunately, you will no longer be able to operate this vehicle. So right now I have a loaner vehicle. I still have not purchased a vehicle because I'll tell you, it took me a good 25 days before I even wanted to sit behind the wheel and drive a car. And I have been driving for the last 15 years of my life, maybe 16 if you consider at the time I was able to get a permit at 16 and then I had a license at 17. And I really, because I'm so shaken about what happened and I'm so lucky to be alive and I was so injured, I mean I went through so much pain and so much surgery just to semi-look like I look and be able to walk around on two legs, that when I have my cell phone in the car, I don't even have it in the front seat with me. I try to throw it in the back on the floor, or I try to put it away in my glove compartment, because I don't even want the temptation to have to reach for it for any reason. You want to know why I'm also lucky that night? I'm going to tell you why I'm lucky. I could have seriously injured somebody else. If it wasn't late at night, and it wasn't that I hit the tree, I could have hit another car. I could have hit somebody's house. I mean, I don't know. I sometimes wonder how things could have been that much worse. I could have had a passenger in my car. So many times I caught myself very close to coming into an accident before I actually had my accident, where I'd be distracted by my phone and then I'd hit the brake. And since I've gotten behind my wheel again and I'm back out driving, I've been paying more attention to other drivers on the road. Just last night, I was next to somebody who was going about 50 miles per hour on the highway, and I saw continuously he kept looking at his phone. I mean, how dangerous. Not just for him, but everyone else out there on the road. You could just be jogging along the sidewalk or walking your dog, and you could get hit by someone who was distracted at their cell phone just like me. So I wanted to come here and share that story with you and introduce myself and tell you who I am. Rabbi Kirsch happened to notice my story in the newspaper at the time. Being elected official, you know, the newspapers usually follow our freeholder meetings and they follow what we do like other elected officials. And of course they follow our behavior in our social life. So it was unexcusable. I was issued a ticket by the Roseland Police Department, which I pleaded guilty to. And at that, I said to the police, I said to my freeholder colleagues, I said to my family members, I said to everyone that I knew, I hope you can learn from me and I can raise awareness of what the circumstances were when I was behind the wheel, because I would hate for it to happen to you. And I know that I saw you all coming in here. A lot of you had your cell phones in your hand. Listen, cell phones are great. They're like pocket computers these days. And to tell you the truth, if you were to take my cell phone away, I don't even know if I'd know how to exist anymore without it. Because we live in such a fast-paced world, and we're so dependent on things that we depend on our cell phone for just about everything. Rabbi Kirsch, yeah, sure. First of all,
questions. Anybody want to ask any questions at all?
Does anyone?
Yes.
So how did you end up getting home?
How did I end up getting home? Well, you know, help. Okay, well, help because I actually got home. I was 2 blocks from my house. I was about a 4 or 5 minute walk from my house, and you know, I hope you're never in a position like this, like I was. But when you're very injured like I was, I had a couple of decisions to make. And I guess at that time, my body and my mind said, because you think of home, help, home, I couldn't find my phone. I wasn't going to go knocking on someone else's door late at night, you know, all scary and bloody. My initial reaction was to get home. I walked home within 5 minutes. I was lucky to get home and be able to call the police and call the first aid squad, and they responded within 10 minutes to my house. So, again, if I was somewhere very dark and desolate, somewhere, I don't know, right over here, we have a couple of busy county roads, but at night, there's no residences, there's no businesses open. So I consider myself very lucky that my injury happened somewhere close to home, that I was able to get home.
Yes.
I know a lot of people after reading the text message, they might erase it. Did you ever erase that message?
I didn't erase that message, no. I was not in denial. Again, there were no witnesses to my accident, so I was very honest and upfront with the police when they came to my house. You know, they wanted to know, you know, did you fall asleep? You know, was there another distraction? You know, did you hit something in the road? Was your vehicle broken? You know, why did this accident happen? And the first thing I said to them was, I was looking at my cell phone. So yeah, if you want to know, the text message I got actually was with one of my friends that I was with that night saying, thank you for picking up the tab for dinner. That was what the text message said.
Justin?
Did you ever find the phone, or was it completely destroyed?
The police found the phone. It was in, I believe, 2 pieces underneath the passenger side seat of my car. So I guess if you're driving along, picture my phone in my right hand. It must have flown out and probably hit off the dashboard and shot back underneath the passenger side of my Jeep. It was found there by the police later that night, and they brought it to the hospital for me, right here in Livingston at St. Barnabas. Yes?
About how long were you, like, you could be unconscious for?
My doctor believes that I was knocked out unconscious probably for anywhere between maybe 5 and 15 seconds. You know, usually when you're knocked out, if you come back to, it's not longer than 5 or 15 seconds, which is probably likely. If I had been completely knocked out and never woken back up, there's always the possibility in my mind that I worried if someone would have even found me that night. Because, again, it was in Roseland, it was on somewhat of a dark road, even though it was residential, it was late at night. And once I was off the road onto the side, you know, unless somebody was really closely paying attention to what they were looking at, they may not have seen my Jeep in the accident on the side of the road. Yes?
How do you raise awareness of the issue?
It's a good question. In the beginning, I really had a hard time getting up and even to being a freeholder and doing my job. You know, I had a concussion. I was very emotional about talking about my accident, my injuries, because of bringing it up. I had to sort of relive it, and it would get me all nervous, and I would get upset. But one of the ways that I would like to raise awareness is just by talking to people, by coming and talking, especially with young folks. Listen, I have parents too, and they're still alive. But you know what? They're not really as dependent on their cell phone, and they're in their 60s, as I am. I find that those of us that are on our cell phone are usually like 40 years old or younger, where our life revolves around our cell phone. So I would, in honesty, I would like to get to more younger people.
Thank you very much.